Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı,
Excellency, Mr. President, Honorable First Lady, distinguished heads of state and government, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all respectfully and welcome to Antalya. Excellency, Mr. President, under your auspices, when the Antalya Diplomacy Forum was launched 5 years ago, we had a vision of a platform. And in this platform, we wanted to produce solutions to regional issues from a strategic perspective and present authentic contributions to global transformation, whilst capturing the spirit of the times. Today, thankfully, Mr. President, we are delighted to see that our forum has evolved into a global brand, bringing together actors from different countries, continents, and political traditions. One of the main features that sets our forum apart from the others is this exceptional uniting power that it possesses. In this respect, the pulse of diplomacy is beating in Antalya today. Here, with the goal of building our common future together, we identified this year's theme as Mapping Tomorrow, Managing Uncertainties. Indeed, in this period of heightened uncertainty, the primary question is how we will shape the future with what kind of wisdom, will, and vision. And indeed, for precisely this purpose, global and regional issues will be discussed in all their aspects in Antalya. Solutions will be shaped here through collective wisdom and reason. As we witness every day, we are confronted with interconnected, simultaneous, and multidimensional crises. What is at stake here is not merely the proliferation of crises and geopolitical challenges. The main point is that uncertainty and crisis have ceased to be a temporary malfunction of the international system and have become the very dominant character of our age. Mr. President, Your Excellency, last year, from this very rostrum, you made a very precise warning. You had said the greatest threat to the international system is a dark future marked by lawlessness, uncertainty, and arbitrariness, and had stated that common sense, justice, and effective diplomacy are needed more than ever. Unfortunately, the latest crisis in our region has painfully confirmed how justified and accurate your observations were. The agenda of last year's forum was marked by the then ongoing genocide and its global effects in Gaza. And this year, the war in Iran has been added to the list with global repercussions. The severe damage inflicted on the system and the continuous escalation have left our region facing one of the most serious challenges in its recent history. During this period, humanity painfully experienced just to learn once again that there can be no winners in a war. Undoubtedly, there are historical lessons to be learned from this war for everyone, especially for the countries in the region. However, during such periods, the first and the most urgent task is to extinguish the fire. It is our sincere hope that the ceasefire agreed upon is fully implemented on the ground and that the process leads to lasting peace. And primarily, I would like to thank the Prime Minister of Pakistan and all other leaders who have spent an effort for this purpose. However, this environment of tranquility should not overlook the root cause of the problem. Israeli expansionism, which began with the genocide in Gaza and subsequently spread to Lebanon and Syria, has become a direct threat to global security, especially over the last 3 years. If a lasting peace is desired to be achieved in our region and beyond, this expansionism that exports instability to the entire world must be urgently brought to a halt by the international society. Excellency, Mr. President, today the international community displays a rare common understanding to end the war. And we are making every effort to utilize this invaluable platform in the interest of dialogue and diplomacy. Essentially, this approach is at the core of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum to make diplomacy a functional agenda again. We do not use this expression in the narrow sense of increase in context. In our understanding, diplomacy is the will to stop a fire before it spreads further, the ability to patiently repair the broken bonds, the courage to transform hostilities into something other than fate, and the art of preserving and expanding the minimum common ground for the shared future. In other words, diplomacy is mapping tomorrow. So, on what kind of architecture we will be building our vision for mapping tomorrow? As Turkiye, under the auspices of our president, we believe that this vision must be built on two main pillars. The first pillar is the institutional reform at the global level. It is imperative that the international governance system shall urgently be reformed into a more inclusive, more transparent, and more accountable system. It is now clearly evident that it's not possible to manage crises with structures that lack representational capacity and whose legitimacy has eroded. Mr. President, Your Excellency, with your vision based on justice, you had identified years ago the gridlock in international decision-making mechanisms and the injustice in representation. You have persistently drawn attention to the double standards that wound the global conscience. With your call for a more just world, you have highlighted the direction that the international system should follow. Today, we see that many people converge on the path you pointed out when the crisis finally knock on their doors. After paying heavy prices, humanity is once again coming to terms with this truth. An unfair international system cannot resolve crises. It only postpones them, deepens them, and makes them more destructive. The international community now faces an undeferrable conscientious reckoning before history. We need to take a concerted approach to take joint steps globally. Peace processes should not be left at the mercy of disruptive actors. They should be embraced by the international community with a firm resolve, and no room should be allowed for the sabotage of these processes. It is essential to establish a fair distribution of global prosperity, and similarly, artificial intelligence should not become a new tool of hegemony that creates new inequalities in the hands of a limited number of actors. Humanity must benefit from this technological opportunity jointly. No one and no region should be left behind. In addition to all these, we must also tackle the challenges facing our future simultaneously. Climate change and drought have become an existential problem affecting every aspect of human life. It is a fact that if humanity fails to establish a common ground of sharing, responsibility, and mutual benefit today, in 10 years' time, conflicts will be far more uncontrollable and far more destructive than they are today. Distinguished guests, the second pillar, as vital as the need for reform at the global level, is the strategic steps that will be made for lasting peace and prosperity in our region. When we undertake a broad geopolitical analysis centered around Antalya today, we are confronted with interconnected, multi-layered crisis dynamics. Our region is under pressure from simultaneous crises. To our north, the Russia-Ukraine war, now in its fifth year, has become a structural challenge that is profoundly shaking the European security architecture and global geopolitical balances. In our southeast, Israel's reckless aggression has long since exceeded the borders of Gaza. This escalation, which has spread to Syria, Lebanon, and most recently Iran, has dragged our region into a vast vortex of conflict. Further south, in the Horn of Africa, the developments we are monitoring attentively are another cause for concern. The devastation caused by the ongoing internal conflicts in Sudan, along with disputes between countries in the region, leaves the strategically important geography with its enormous development potential vulnerable to security threats. In almost every aspect of this crisis map, Turkey is one of the rare countries capable of engaging in dialogue with all parties on the ground simultaneously and on the basis of trust and of assuming a mediating role. The question here goes far beyond simply assuming a mediating role in a technical sense. We feel the challenges facing our region in our hearts. We deeply grasp the burden, the pain, and the consequences of every crisis. With this mindset, we have to date gone the extra mile for the well being of our region, and we will continue to do so. On this path, the strong leadership of our President and the foreign policy vision he has set out will continue to guide our direction. Distinguished guests, our region can no longer tolerate wars, invasions, terrorism, and civil wars. We must achieve regional peace and stability through a strong vision of regional ownership. We can realize this vision in broad terms through permanent and results oriented dialogue in areas of common interest, respect for the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the countries in the region, embracing ethnic, cultural, and sectarian diversity as a unifying element, ensuring that the defense capabilities of regional actors do not constitute a threat to one another, but for their own security, completely refraining from attempts to utilize non-state armed actors in our region, and meeting the legitimate expectation for a two-state solution to the Palestinian issue, which is the root cause of almost all problems in our region. This regional architecture will also provide the institutional capacity for maintaining long-term peace and prosperity. Mr. President, Excellency, distinguished guests, history has repeatedly shown us that lasting peace and stability are built through the bold steps taken at the very height of crises. We believe this wholeheartedly. And in this spirit, we are devising solutions based on collective wisdom today, and we are taking steps to put them into practice. The fifth Antalya Diplomacy Forum represents one of the most meaningful platforms for this endeavor. With these feelings and thoughts, I hope that our forum will serve as a source of benefit for both our region and all humanity. I would like to express my gratitude to His Excellency Mr. President and the First Lady for their patronage and invaluable support. And on behalf of myself and my ministry, I would like to express my thanks to all our distinguished guests for honoring our forum with their presence, and I greet you with all respect.